This video is a tutorial for Microsoft Word on the iPad. I first produced a tutorial on this app back in 2015, then an updated version in 2019, and now in 2023, 4 years later, I think it's about time we got a more up-to-date version. Now, there are two ways to use this tutorial. Firstly, you can either watch it from beginning to end all the way through like a course, or I've put timestamps on this video so you can skip to the bits that you're looking for. Now, Microsoft Word on the iPad does require a paid subscription to Microsoft 365. That's to enable you to be able to create or edit documents. One of the most common questions that I used to get on the tutorial videos that I used to have was that why, when you tap the screen, the keyboard doesn't come up. There are two reasons for that. Firstly, it's either that you haven't got that paid subscription or that you're not signed in with your Microsoft 365 account. Just make sure you've ticked those two things off in order to be able to use this app. Now, Microsoft Word on the iPad is fairly feature complete, but not completely all the way there yet. Things like table of contents, for instance, is still not available on the iPad. So don't expect the full desktop experience. However, this is a very capable app. Now, there are two versions of Microsoft Word available from the App Store. One is the standalone Microsoft Word app, and the other is part of the Microsoft 365 app. And this tutorial works for both versions of that app. So let's get started. And if you find this video useful, please like, comment, and subscribe. So when you first open up the Microsoft Word app, you're greeted with this sort of home screen, which enables you to create new documents or open existing ones or access settings. So we're going to talk through this screen now. So at the top of this, in the top left-hand corner of the screen, you can see your profile picture. If you tap on that, you'll get access to your account details. And it's from here that you can add additional Microsoft accounts if you have them. Below that, we have this home icon. And from here, this shows us our most recently worked on documents, if you have any. And to simply open up one of these documents, you can tap on any one of these icons and it will open up the document for you. However, next to the title of each one of these documents, you'll see we've got these three dots. And this is where we can do a little bit of file management and a bit of housekeeping. So if I tap on the three dots here, you'll see it brings up this menu. The top one allows you to open the document in a separate window because you can have different windows open of Microsoft Word. So if I tap on open a new window, what happens is it opens it up in a separate window from where I had before. I'll close this off. Back on this menu, we can also share the document straight from here, and you can generate a link or send a copy, and they'll open up the iPad share sheet so you can send it via messages or via our email app or via AirDrop, for instance. The third option is to make it available offline. So you can enable this. It will download from the cloud if you have it stored in the cloud, the documents. So if you're going to be going somewhere without internet access, you can continue working on this. Then we can pin the document underneath this, and this will show it at the top. And there's a special pin section, which I'll just show you in a moment. You can remove this document from recents if you don't want to see it again. You know you're not going to be using it again. You can open up in the OneDrive app. And here are a few useful features. You can rename the document if that's what you want to do. You can move it to a different location. You can delete it, or you can view its properties. Now, along the top of this home screen, we have a few different tabs. So currently we're on the most recent documents tab. We can tap on shared to access any shared documents, collaborative documents we're working on. We can view files that are stored in the cloud. If you have a OneDrive account, you're storing your documents there. And earlier when I talked about pinning documents, you can tap on pinned and it will show you any documents that you've pinned. And you might pin a document if it's a document you're going to be opening on a regular basis, you need quick access to. Now, if we go back to the menu on the left-hand side, we have a plus icon, and it's from here we can generate a new document. So I'm going to come back to this in a moment when we get into the main part of the tutorial. As you can see here, this is where we can access creating a blank document, or we've got a number of different templates we can work from here. The next icon down is this little folder icon here, and this is where we can manage our files and put them into folders. And it's a bit like the Files app, or a bit like using OneDrive from within the app. So it will show you your OneDrive account here, and it will show you documents you have saved here. And what you can do is, next to each document, you can tap on the three icons. It brings up the same file menu that we looked at earlier. And from here, we can again rename documents, create folders, move them into folders. And this is how you sort of organize your Word documents. Now, it's not just OneDrive that's supported here. You can organize your offline files and any devices you have stored on the iPad itself or within the Files app. Now, if we move our attention to menu at the bottom, in the bottom left corner here, we've got this icon with 9 dots. This is just showing you the other Microsoft apps that are available with links to quick links to be able to open them or download them if you haven't already. And the question mark icon is exactly what it looks like. You can give feedback to Microsoft about the app, suggest a feature, or you can access help and support if you're having trouble using this app. And at the bottom, in the bottom left corner, we have the settings icon. And if we tap on this, we have a few additional settings for the app. We can activate the Pride theme if we want to do that. We can add additional storage accounts. Don't get excited, it's quite limited. So you can add additional OneDrive accounts here, OneDrive for Business, Dropbox or Box. Things like Google Drive and other services aren't supported directly in this app, unfortunately. So you're quite limited, but there are some additional options here. Back on this file menu, and next up we have what we do with offline files. So we've got a few settings. We can download over Wi-Fi only. This is if you have a cellular iPad. You can set it so it only downloads when you connect it to Wi-Fi, or if you don't mind using your 4G or 5G connection, you can just turn that off. It will download over cellular. You also have the option of enabling or disabling push notifications. And there's a few additional settings for Word. So auto format as you type. It will correct things, autocorrect, and changing the formatting of text. You can turn that on and off. Apple Pencil always draws ink. So you can turn that on and off. It depends on whether you want to use your Apple Pencil as a navigational tool or if you want to always use it for drawing ink. And that's where you would turn that setting off. And you can also show enable or disable just to show text predictions while typing. So if you're typing, it'll predict what you want to say, and that's something you can turn on or off as well. So let's go back to this plus icon on the left menu, and this is where we're going to sort of start to begin to dive into this app and what it can do. So as I said earlier, you can create a blank document or you can choose from a template that already exists. And for this, what we're going to do is we're going to create a blank document for this tutorial. So let's give you a little bit of an overview of the UI and how things work and where you can find different things. So if you don't have a keyboard connected and you're just using a software keyboard, then your keyboard will appear on the screen. If, however, I connect a keyboard to the iPad, that keyboard will disappear. However, I can start typing on a hardware keyboard if that's what you need. So at the top, and it follows a bit, it's quite similar to the desktop version in that we have one of our editing functions along the top, and we have these different tabs where we can do different things. As I said earlier, it's not as fully featured as the desktop version, but there is some design similarity there. One thing that's not available is the file menu like we do have on a computer. We don't have these on iPads at the moment, but there is a file menu that sort of exists in the top right-hand corner. You've got this 3-dot menu. This is essentially your file menu. And I'll show you this now. When you start a new document, you'll of course want to save it straight away. So to do that, you tap on the 3 dots in the top right corner and you can tap on save and immediately give it a file name. And then hit save. Now this document is automatically saved, and you'll notice if we go back to the file menu in the top corner of the screen, autosave is turned on. So every time I exit this document, and to exit a document, you can tap on the arrow in the top left-hand corner, automatically going to save any changes you made to that app. So we're going to start this tutorial by looking at text and how to enter it and how to edit it. And there's a few different ways we can enter text. So as we saw earlier, we can use the software keyboard to enter in text, or we can use a connected keyboard, for example, a Magic Keyboard or a Bluetooth keyboard. And I've got one here. So I'm just going to type some text in like this. The third way of entering in text is to use something called dictation. And to enable this, we can go to the File menu, which is located in the top right corner, the three dots up here. We can tap on that and scroll down, and we can see that we've got something called Dictation. You might need to turn this on if it's not already done so. And then in the bottom right corner, you see I've got this microphone, and I can tap on this microphone and begin speaking, and it will convert what I'm saying into text, which is a really useful feature. This is a tutorial for Microsoft Word on the iPad. What you can then do is tap on the microphone to mute the microphone, and then tap on the keyboard icon in the top bottom right corner once you've finished dictating. You'll notice that the auto format and auto correcting is kicked into place by the correct capitalization of Microsoft Word and the correct formatting of the Word iPad as well. You don't need to worry about those things, so dictation can be a really useful tool. So before we go into the editing of text on the screen, I just want to quickly show you the contextual menu. This is a menu that appears when you select something on the screen. Now, to select some text, you can use a mouse, and you can just simply click and drag across some text to select it. And then you can right click the text to bring up a contextual menu for cut, copy, delete, turn it into a link, that kind of stuff. If you don't have a hardware keyboard connected, you can simply double tap on a word to select it. And then you've got the blue handles at either end, so you can just drag those from left to right to select what you want to select. And you'll notice the same, it looks a bit different, but the same contextual menu appears with cut, copy, delete. You can comment and those kinds of things. So that's a hidden menu that you might not necessarily know exists, but it's there. So if you're looking for how to cut, copy, and paste text, that's how you do it. So if I copy the text from this menu here, I can now move my cursor to the end. In fact, I might move it a couple of lines down. And if I tap again where this blinking cursor is, I've now got an option called paste. And that is how I can copy and paste some text. Now, if you're looking for things like undo and redo, they're on every tab of the screen now. And you'll find this in the top sort of left corner where we can see undo and redo, these buttons here. And if you notice on the different tabs, they're also there on each one. So you've got really quick access to undo and redo. Now let's take a look at the contents of the Home tab, because this is where we can begin to really make our document look nice and do some creative editing. So I'm going to select text that says document title, and I'm going to go straight to the last icon on the Home menu, which is this. This is text styles. If you're someone who uses text styles quite a lot, you'll find this here. So this is where you can choose what the text is, whether it's a title, a heading, or just normal paragraph text. And what you can do with that is you can just tap on it, and it automatically formats the text in terms of its size, in terms of its typeface. And yeah, that's a really quick way of accessing that menu. As you can see, you've got lots of different styles of text that you can very quickly format your text to become. However, you may want to have some element of customization to your text yourself. So we're now going to have a look at the rest of the contents of this menu. I'm going to select my document title again. And just to the right of undo and redo, we have our typeface selection tool. So from here, I've got a big menu of all different fonts I have available. Lots of these aren't downloaded. And if you just select it, it will quickly download. So I'm going to change the font of that one here, as you can see. Now, to the right of this, I have my text size. And there are two ways of changing the text size. I can either select from this drop-down menu, or I can choose the plus and minus icons if I want to adjust the text size in finer increments. Now, to the right of the font size menu, I've got the common ones, which you can see on all word processing apps. So I can make it bold, I can italicize it, I can underline it if I want to do any of those things. And next to that's another drop-down menu with some additional formatting options. So I've got strike through, I've got subscript, superscript. I can change the case of the text. So if I can tap on that, I can make it all uppercase, for example, if I want to do that. And I've also got word art styles. So word art is available in a sort of a basic format. So if I want to make it look a bit word arty, I can select which one of these I want to have, and then it will change the formatting of the text if that's your thing. It's not quite classic word art, but it kind of resembles it a little bit. And the final option under this is something called clear formatting, which will resume to the default typeface and font size. To the right of this, I also have my highlighter tool. So if I select some other text on my screen here, and I go to here, I can actually choose a highlighter color. So I can make this one in yellow, and I can select another word on this screen, and I can change that to green, for example. So as you can see, you've got lots of different highlighting options. And of course, if you change your mind, you can select the text again, go back to this menu and choose no color, and it will remove the highlighting for you there. Then next to that, I have my drop-down menu, which allows me to choose the color of the text itself. So I'm going to choose my document title here, and I can choose from these lots of different colors available on the screen here. Or I can tap on more colors, and it brings up this spectrum of different colors that I can choose from. So I'm just going to move something up here, and let's find a nice blue. And then once you're done, you can hit apply. And that's how you can change the color of your text. Next up, we have two icons that are useful for creating lists. So first of all, we have our bullets, and we've got 6 different bullets to choose from. I'm going to choose this one here, and then I can begin making a list. Now, if you want to change what type of bullet it is after you've made the list, you can actually just select the items on your list, go back to this menu, and you can choose a different bullet style. You can do the same with numbering, which is the next drop down menu we have here. So again, we have 6 options for numbers. So we've got numbers with dots or with brackets on, we've got Roman numerals or letters and that kind of thing. So if I choose the numbers with brackets, you can see now my list. I've got a numbered list instead with the numbers of my choosing. And every time I hit the return key after this, it will generate the next number in the sequence. Next to that, we have our indenting tools. So I can use this to indent my text to the right by tapping this, or tapping the left one, move the text back over if that's what I want to do. And then the last menu contains something you'll probably use quite often, and this is paragraph formatting, and this is where we can align the text. Now it's kind of hidden. I don't know why it's not on the main part of this app, but it is here. So if I select my title again, and I tap on this menu, I can center align the text if I want. I've also got some additional options in terms of spacing. So I'm going to select the items in my list just down here, and I can tap on line spacing. And here are the increments I have to choose from. So I can do double line spacing if I want to do that, or by a smaller amount if that's your thing. Also on this menu, you can add a space before or after the paragraph. So put your cursor before the paragraph and tap on add space before paragraph. You'll notice it's just shifted the text down to add a space there. I can also do the same thing by adding a space after the paragraph if I want to do that. And finally, from this list, you can add paragraph marks. If I tap on that, it will show me every time I've hit the return key, we've got the paragraph marks all labeled and indicated there. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen, because I have my hardware keyboard connected, I've also got quick access to a few different things. I've got a keyboard icon at the bottom here where I can show my keyboard or show my emoji keyboard if you want to add emojis to your Word document. I'm not sure why you want to do that, but you can. You've got some keyboard settings there, but you've also got quick access to bold, italicize, and underline. You've also got the dictation icon down there as well if you need that. And now we're going to go to a big part of this tutorial as we look at the insert menu. So this is where you want to add things to your document that isn't necessarily going to be text. So this is where you might add pictures or tables and that sort of thing. So let's explore the contents of this menu and see what you can do. So next to our undo and redo icons, we have this thing called page. And if I tap on that, it just inserts a new page on my document if I want to just quickly go to the next page. Then to the right of that, I have this icon that looks like a table. And if I tap on that, it inserts a table. Now you'll notice that now I've inserted a table on my document, I've got an additional tab at the end that's called Table. And this gives me options in terms of editing and formatting the style of this table. So I'm just going to quickly add in some content. Now, if you want additional rows or columns, what you can do is you can tap on the Insert menu as part of this table option, and you can insert a row above or below or something to the left or to the right. So let's say I want to add an additional row below. I can tap on Insert Below, and you can see now it's given me an additional row of content where I can add things on. If I want to delete a row or a column, I can just simply tap and select that. And there's two ways of doing that. You can do it with a mouse, or you'll notice that above, and this is for really good for when you're using a touchscreen, that above the table and to the side of it, I've got these sort of spaces where I can just tap. And it works a little bit like Excel. Imagine they're sort of like column headers or row titles. So I can just tap on those and I can very quickly select entire rows or columns. And that's something that's really quite useful. Again, let me show you what happens if I want to delete an entire column. Now, if I tap on this, it brings up the contextual menu. And from here, I can delete or I can insert additional elements or columns. And I can also clear the contents of this column. You can also do it in the menu at the top. So if I tap on the delete icon up here, I can tap on delete columns, rows, or tables. So I want to delete this column. And now you'll notice that I've now only got 2 columns on my table. Now, let's say I want to expand the size of this table. In the bottom corner, you can see I've got this icon down here. And if you tap and hold on it, it can actually expand the size of the table to fill out the screen. The next icon along allows us to either merge or split the cells. If I select 2 different cells, I can tap on this menu and I can select merge. Now you can see that this cell here is one cell that goes all the way across the table. I can now split this cell again if I want to by clicking inside this cell, going to this merge function up here, tap on split cells, it's now split it in half again. And I can keep splitting the cells up. I keep on tapping this menu, go to merge and split cells. And as you can see, I'm adding in more columns inside this cell many as I need to add. Now, next to this, I have my alignment tools. I wish these were on the Home tab actually, but I can align the text inside the cell. So I'm going to select my 2 titles up the top here. I'm going to tap on Center. It's moving the titles or the contents of those cells over to the middle. So next, I'm going to show you how to change the size of the cells and the columns. Now, earlier we looked at changing the size of the table by tapping on the icon in the bottom corner where you can change the size of the table just by dragging it inwards. But also on these tabs that I showed you earlier, you'll notice that there's 2 lines at the end of each one. If I drag on the 2 lines, I can actually make this column a little bit narrower than the first one. I can also do the same with rows. So if I tap on this first row, I've got 2 lines at the bottom. If I tap, hold, and drag downwards, I can actually make the cell quite big. And I've shown you this because the next 3 options on our table menu is all about vertical alignment. If at the moment, you can see if I select this text, you can see the text is actually at the top of the cell. If I tap on this middle one here, it moves the text to the middle, or I can move it to the bottom of those cells. The next option is about text direction. And if I tap on that, I can choose which way I want the text to face in this table. So at the moment, it's going from left to right. It's horizontal as normal. I can rotate the text by 90, or I can rotate it by 270, and you can have the text on its side if that's something that's going to be useful to you. The next icon along is something called Auto Fit, and this is where we can automatically adjust the width of our table to suit the contents within it. So if you've got a lot of blank space, if I just tap on Auto Fit Contents, you can see that it shrunk the size of my table down just to allow the contents within it, but nothing else. Another option under this menu is to auto fit the page. So what this will do is it will stretch the table out so it fits the maximum width of the page. And there you go. A very quick way of doing those 2 things. The next icon along is about how you want to distribute rows and columns in terms of making them even. So if I tap on this menu and go distribute columns, it makes sure that each column on my table is the same width apart. You can also do the same thing with the rows. And you can see now all of the rows in the table are exactly the same height. Under the next icon along, you can change the cell height or the cell width. And you can do that on a per column basis. So if I want to change the height here, I can just tap on this, change it to a 5, and you can see now that it's now 5 centimeters tall. And on the next menu, I have something called Style Options. This is where I can enable things. It works a little bit like Excel. I can determine that the top row is a header row, so that's where the titles are. If I want a total row at the bottom, if I want a first column or a last column, that enables me just to allocate what kind of cells are on this table. If I select the table then and go to Table Styles, this is where the style options bit's quite important. So if I tap on Table Styles, I've got lots of preset color schemes. So if I tap on this one here, you can see that it's determined that I've got a title column, but also the column on the left are also sort of titles of cells. So if I go back to my style options on this menu here, I can tap on first column, and you will notice now that it's no longer there's no longer titles on the side of the column. They'd be quite useful in terms of customizing the look and style of the table. You can do that. I'm not sure I like this black, so let's pick a different color. There you go, a bit brighter. As you can see on this menu, I've actually got some further options now. I've done this. So if I just take my finger and I swipe along the top, I've got something called shading. And here is where I can sort of customize the color of the cells. So if I want one particular cell to be a different color, I can just select the cell and I can change the color of that one cell to something else. There's a few different options for you in terms of formatting the look and the style of your table. Let's go back to the insert menu now and have a look at some of our other options. Next to the table icon, I have this drop down, which is for images. This allows me to insert images from my camera roll. So if I tap on this, I can quickly insert an image. I'm going to just choose this one here. Now let's put the image on the document. At the moment, it's far too big, so I want to resize it. You'll notice with the image selected, I have these handles on each corner of the image. So what I can do is go to the bottom here. I'm just going to tap on a handle, drag it inwards to shrink the image to a much more usable size. And I can quickly click and drag this item around my page and put it anywhere I want on my document. And of course, cut and paste also works with this as well. So if I tap on the image and tap on it again, it brings up my contextual menu here. What I can do now from this menu, I'm going to tap on cut. I'm going to put my cursor up back on this page. I'm going to tap on it again, bring up paste. And there we go. I've got the image on the first page of my document. Now you notice that with the picture selected, I also have now this new tab at the top called picture. And again, lots of different options here to format the look of the picture from within the document. The first one is called styles. And from here, I can add borders or shadows and those kinds of things. So I tap on that, you can add this border. I think that looks very good. You get the point. You can add lots of different styles to the image if that's something you want to do. You can also add a shadow. So this will add a shadow in. You can choose the angle of the shadow, whether it's an outer shadow or an inner shadow or some kind of perspective shadow. Let's choose an outer shadow. I'm going to put it on the bottom left, a pretty standard place to put it. And there you go. My image now has a shadow on it. On the next menu, you have something called reflection, which will put sort of a copy of the image flipped below to make it look like it's sitting above water. But if I tap on that one, you can see it's done the same thing here. It's added a sort of a reflection below. The next item on this menu is called wrap text, and this is how you want Word to handle the image when it's next to some text. So if you tap on this, you can see something called inline with text, square, tight, through top and bottom, behind the text or in front of text. So if I put behind text, when I click and drag this image, it will actually go behind the text. You can do some really cool sort of formatting looks and options with this wrap text feature. I think it actually looks pretty good. I'm actually going to turn off the reflection and the shadow just for now. Now, if we go back to the wrap text menu, I've also got some other options. I can actually have the text move around the image as I move the image around the document, which is really quite useful. So I'll tap on something like square, for instance. Now you'll notice when I drag the image, the text actually just moves around it. Which can be really useful for getting precise placement of images and text on your Word documents. That's a really useful one to have. If you're dealing with multiple images that are layered on top of each other, what you can do is bring the object or the image to the front or the back, depending what it is. So let's say I insert another image. Let's do that quickly. If I go to insert, tap on image here, I'm going to put this item on here now. So I've got this other image here. At the moment, this image is on top. Now, what I can do is I can send this image backwards. Now the phone's on top, or I can bring it forwards. Put this on top. So if you've got, as I said, if you've got lots of different images you're working with, you can change the order of which they are facing you on the page. Now, if you're working with a hardware keyboard, you can actually select multiple images at the same time by using the Shift key. So if I tap on my first image and hold down Shift and tap on the second image, you'll see that both images are now selected. This enables a new option under the picture menu called Group. And what I can do is I can tap on Group and then tap on Group here. And now you can see that it's actually combined the two images as one single image that I can move around on the page. So that's something that could be really quite useful. The next option is something called rotate. If I tap on this, I can rotate the image left or right. And I'm also able to flip the image vertically or horizontally. Now, if you ungroup your images and you go back to the single ones here, I now have an option called crop, which is here. Now, on this second image that I've inserted, I've got lots of white space around it that I don't necessarily want. So if I tap on crop here, what this allows me to do is crop the image down by dragging in the handles. If I tap away now, it goes back to my normal selection tool. Now you'll notice when I first tapped on crop, it actually brought up a menu as well, where I can go back to the original, or I can choose a particular aspect ratio, for example, square 3x2, 4x3, or 16:9. That allows you to get a precise cut in a particular aspect ratio for your image, if that's something you need to do. Or if you want to reset everything, the last option is called reset, and it puts the image back to how it originally was. Now, next to the crop tool, I have something called reset, and this will allow me to reset the picture in terms of its formatting or reset the image back to its original size. And then the last option under the picture menu is something called alt text. This is really something that should be encouraged, actually. This is really important for accessibility on the document for those who have visual impairments. If you need to add a description of the image of what you can see here, you're able to type in a description for that. So for people with, as I said, with visual impairments who need access to your document, you can type in that description. They're able to see what the image should be. Now, when you select an image, you do have that contextual menu that we looked at before, where we did the sort of the cut and paste, but you do have some other options. You have something called replace, which will replace the image with something else from your photo library in its place. You can either get access to the crop, you can add a hyperlink, that's what we want to do. So if I tap on that, I can type in a website address, hit done. This image will now link to a particular website. Again, you can access alt text, or if you want to leave a comment. So if you're editing a document and you're giving some feedback, you can tap on comment and it allows you to add comments to a particular object on the document. Back on the insert menu, we've got several more options for us to explore now. So the next one along is a picture of a camera. This uses the device's inbuilt camera to take a picture. This is my audio interface. It allows you to take a picture and insert that directly onto the document. Then next to that, I have a drop-down menu for shapes. So it's from here, within this menu, that we can access text boxes. So that may be something that's quite important to you, adding text boxes. It's done from the shapes menu, but we've got lots of different shapes we can add on here. If I tap on this circle one, I'm going to add a circular image or circular shape to my document. And just like with an image, I can resize it. If I drag on the handles, I can make it bigger or smaller. And if I hold down the Shift key, it maintains its aspect ratio, so it stays as a circle as I drag and resize it. Then you'll notice that with the shape selected, once again, I have a new tab at the end called Shape with some additional formatting options. From here, I can insert additional shapes if that's something I want to do. I've also got shape styles, so I can change the color and the border color of the image. So I might make it yellow with a black border, as you can see there. But I can also manually change this, so you don't have to use shape styles. You can use the next one called Fill, which enables you to change the color of the inner circle or the inner shape as well as its border color. Let's do something like that. And as you can see, yellow shape with a brown border. Just like with text, we have wrapping options. So I can wrap the text or I can put it behind it. So if I just choose behind text, I'm going to move this circle so it sits behind my list here. And you have the option of bringing the image forward in front of another layer that you might have in front, like another shape or another image, or you can send it backwards. And the last tool at the end here is for rotating. So I can rotate it. You won't notice because it's a circle, but I can rotate it right or left or flip it vertically or horizontally. The next item on the insert menu allows us to insert this text box, which is useful for adding in things like quotes. So if I just double tap on the text, and just type something to replace that there. Now, just like before, the shape tab appears at the end, and under this menu, I've got some of the similar formatting options we discussed before. So I can adjust the fill or the border color. If I select text, I can go to Word Art Styles, which is a new menu that appears here, and I can add Word Art Style text to this box, just like that. Under the text menu, I've got text alignment, so I can line it within the box, top, middle, bottom, or left, center, and right. I can also change the direction of the text, just like in tables, so I can rotate the text by 90 degrees or by 270 degrees, so that exists there. And just like before, I've got text wrapping options. And when dealing with multiple shapes and images, I can move it backwards or forwards. And I've also got that rotation tool that we discussed before. If you want to rotate a shape without having to use this menu, you'll notice with this shape selected, I've got this small round circle with this rotating arrow. And if I tap and hold on it, I can actually rotate the box or the shape by a custom amount. And I can move it around and have it fit in exactly where I want it to go. Now, if we go back to the insert menu, the next three icons are to do with stock images and stock icons, and it can be a really useful tool to have. So if I tap on this image here, this icon, it opens up a new column at the side called stock images. These are images that I'm free to use within Microsoft Word and use this for documents. So there's lots of options and things that it gives you here, or you can search for something. If I search in, I don't know, piano, it automatically gives me pictures that I can use within the documents. If I tap on it, I tap on insert. Now inserted this image straight onto my Word document. So this is something that's really quite handy. And just like before, I won't go through this again, but the picture tab appears at the end, just like with photos, and you can edit it that way. Now, if I go back to the insert menu, I've got the same again. It's a picture of a duck with a leaf. I don't know what that's supposed to represent, but if you tap on that, it opens up stock images. But this time, we've got the icons option that shows up. And you can actually easily switch between these because you've got tabs at the top for images and icons. So it does the same thing here. If I type in, I don't know, what should I type in? Clock. So I type in clock, it gives me a few different options here. I'm going to use this one here. So I'm going to tap on this stopwatch, tap on insert, inserts the shape for me. Just like before, I've got a new tab that appears at the end. This one's called graphics, but it operates in a very similar way to shapes. So I can choose the color of the watch, give it an outline, and choose how it's wrapped, whether it sits at the back or the front between different images. I can rotate it, crop it, add alt text, all that sort of thing. So that is how I add stock images and stock icons. Then the last option we have for stock images is this icon of a cube. If I tap on this, this opens up online 3D models. So this is kind of cool actually if you're providing or creating an interactive document that you want to work with digitally. So it brings up this menu. I'm going to tap on emoji and I'm just going to tap on one of these icons. Let's tap on this one here. Tap on insert. Now what it does is it inserts this 3D model on here. And this 3D model means that you can manipulate it in 3D space. So if you can see on the middle of this picture, I have this icon here. If I tap on it, use my mouse to drag on it, and actually rotate the image in a 3D way, just like this. So it's kind of cool. Now, when the image is selected, it brings up a 3D model tab at the end. And I've got the option to reset the 3D model back to its original way that it looked when I first put it on. I've got views. So from here, I've just got some custom angles to look at it from. And just like with the images and shapes, I can bring it backwards and forwards. I can add some alt text, but one more option I have for this 3D model is something called pan and zoom. If I tap on that, if I tap on the magnifying glass just to the right, I can kind of zoom in and I can change the position of this 3D model within the selected space. Something quite random for you. Back on the insert menu, if I select some text, for example, let's tap on Hello World. My next icon I've got is for a hyperlink. I showed you this with images before, but you can add a hyperlink to text. If I tap on that, add an address, hit done, this text is now a hyperlink. If I tap on it, it gives me the option to open, copy, or edit the link. So that's if you're creating a sort of interactive document. And if you are giving feedback to someone, what you can do is you can select some text and tap the next icon, which is to add a comment. And what you can do here is you can give some feedback to the person. Hit send. And that is how you can add a comment to a particular aspect of the document. We're going to look at that under the review tab a little bit later on in a bit more detail. Next up, we have this to insert formulas or equations. If I tap this icon, I can then type in something and then add in formulas and things like that. I think that's probably correct. And then another really commonly used feature then under the insert menu is this. This is headers and footers. This is my headers and footers menu. I can tap on edit header and I can give this a title, and this header will appear on every page of the document. However, if we go back to this menu, you'll notice at the bottom I have something called different first page. So this means that if I tap on this, the header that I just put in will appear on page 2, as you can see here, but not on page 1. So that could be something that's really useful for you. You can also choose to have different odd and even pages as well. This can be useful for things like footers if you are having numbered text. Let's just say you want to add a page number to the footer. And we're going to do this, we're going to tap on the next icon along, which is to add page numbers. So what I can do is add a page number on the bottom left of this page. And when I go to my even page, I can tap on this again and add the page number to the bottom right. So this is useful if you're creating a sort of a booklet format where you want the page numbers to be on the corners. So you can absolutely do that by using a combination of those two functions. So you've got your header and footer function here. You've got your page numbers here. You've also got options to remove page numbers and format the page numbers if that's something you want to do. If you want letters instead of numbers, or you want it to look a bit different like that, you can add the dashes on either side. So they're the options that you absolutely have. The next two icons allow me to do things with referencing. So the first icon, where it says AB1, allows me to add a footnote at the bottom of the page. So if I tap on the end of this sentence, I tap on AB1, added a number next to the sentence, and now I can type in the reference at the bottom of this page. However, if I just undo that, you may want to add all of the references to the end of the document. That's where the second icon comes in use. So I've got this little sheet here with an I on it. If I tap on that, it does the same thing again. It adds a number to the sentence, but this time all of my references are now going at the end of the document. Now you now notice it's not actually on the same page. And that's how you would do that. The final option under the insert menu is something called add-ins. So if I tap on this, there's lots of kind of add-ins are kind of extensions that work within Microsoft Office. And I've got the Wikipedia one installed here. But you can tap on See All and you can browse all of the available add-ins, some of which you'll need to pay for. But there's lots of different ones you can scroll through and find which ones you want. So if I just demonstrate the Wikipedia one, I'll tap on add-ins, use Wikipedia. Now I can search Wikipedia and I can select something to be inserted into the document. So let's just type in iPad. I'm going to search for iPad. Now it's brought up a Wikipedia article on the iPad. I can select the text I want. I can tap on the add icon and it's copied that text from Wikipedia, including the reference right there as a quote. That's something to be really useful to make use of. Let's now leave the insert menu and head over to draw. And this is where we can use an Apple Pencil or our finger to draw directly onto the page. And this also includes a much requested feature, which is to convert handwritten notes into text. And I'll show you how to do that as well. So if you have an Apple Pencil, you can just grab it and you can draw directly onto the page. Now I've written the word hello on the screen. If I tap on it, I can select it and the shape menu comes up at the end there. And I've got the same text formatting options or shape formatting options I discussed before. I've also got a contextual menu where I can cut, copy and paste this piece of handwriting, or I can resize it to make it bigger or smaller on the page. Now, if I go back to the draw menu, you can see I've got lots of different options in terms of pen tools and colors and so on. Now, if you don't have an Apple Pencil, you're just going to use your finger. The last option at the end here is something called Draw with Touch. So you'll notice that I can either draw with my mouse, which is not particularly accurate, or I can draw with my finger. Just like that. Now, next to that, I have several different pen tools, and these are different presets, essentially. If I tap on this black one, which I've just been using, it brings up a menu where I can change the thickness of the pen or pencil, and I can change its color, including some of these fancy sort of glittery ones. If I tap on one of those, now when I draw on the page, all very sparkly. But there you go. I've got a different version of that now with a different pencil. And I've got these different presets, so I can basically customize these as much as I want. So I've got 3 pen icons along the top. And this last one is a pencil. So it's currently in grey. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. This gives you a sort of a pencil texture. A bit like that. So it doesn't have the same sort of finesse as a pen. I've also got a highlighter tool, so I can tap on this. I can tap on it again to change the color of the highlight if I want to do that. And I can just select over some handwritten text just like that using my highlighter tool. That's how that works, just like that. And the very first icon I have, my eraser tool. If I want to erase something that I've already drawn out, I can just tap on something to get rid of each element. I don't need to use it like an actual eraser. I don't need to sort of scribble all over it. I can just tap on it to get rid of it, just like that. And the first option is called Select Objects. This is basically if you want to get out of drawing mode. So now when I touch the screen, nothing happens, or use the Apple Pencil. I'm just navigating around the page there. So use Select Objects if you just want to very quickly get out of drawing mode. Now let's have a look at that really popular, really much requested tool, which is about converting handwritten text into typed text. To do that, I'm going to tap on the second pen tool, which has the letter A inside. And now when I use my Apple Pencil, I'm going to write stuff on the page, but it's going to convert it into text. There we go. Let's write "Hello World." It's converted it into text, and that's how that works. It works really well. Just make sure your handwriting is quite neat for it to understand what you're doing. But that's how you activate that tool. That's how you use it. That's something I think is going to be really useful for Apple Pencil users. Let's go to the menu at the top. Let's go to the next one. This one's called Layout. So this is one you might want to look at the beginning of the document creation process. This is where we can change the orientation, size, and the margins of our document. So we can see it here. I tap on the margins one. I can have normal margins, narrow, moderate, wide, mirrored, and so on. Or I can set custom margins if I want to. I've got to set them at the top, left, right, and bottom. I can tap that and set a custom amount, hit enter. And now the margin at the top is much smaller. I can also go to orientation and I can set this to portrait or landscape view. And I can change the size of the page. It will default to whatever's popular in your country. So I'm in the UK, so A4 is what it will come up as for me, is by default. But if in other parts of the world, it might come up as letter size. You do have some sizes here to choose from. Although you can't set a custom size, you are limited to these sizes. The next icon along is something called columns. So this is where if you want to create almost like what you see in newspapers, where you've got a column of text on each side of the page. If I tap on columns, I can choose how many columns I want across my page. So let's go for 2 columns. And what happens is when I start typing, you'll see that the text stops about halfway through. Now, if I'm just to demonstrate this, correct me. There we go. That's how autocorrect works and spell check. Now I'm just going to copy and paste this sentence several times over, just so you can see what happens when I get to the bottom of this page. You'll see now that it starts filling up the second column before it goes on to the next page. So if you want to type text in columns, that's exactly how you do it. And the final item under the layout section is something called breaks. So this allows me to insert a page break or a column break if I'm working with columns. It allows me to break into sections or start a new section on the next even page or the next odd numbered page. So all your different break types are found under this menu. So the next tab we're going to look at is something called review. And this is what we would typically do we're at the end of working a document, or if we're working collaboratively and we're working with a lot of things like comments. So let's go through each item on this. The first one is for proofing tools. So I've got spelling and grammar, which I can turn on or off, or I can select the language that is going to be used for spell check. The next icon is called Smart Lookup. So if I select a word on the page and I tap this icon, which is a question mark with a little I inside, if I tap on that, what it'll do is it will give me a definition of that particular word. It will look it up. It will do a sort of a definition. It will do a YouTube search and that kind of thing. So that all appears in that right-hand column there. The next icon along is for word count. So if I tap on this, it shows you the number of pages, the number of words, characters, and so on. You can also show or hide the word count, and you can choose whether the word count includes additional text, which would be things like the headers and footers, footnotes, endnotes, text boxes, and that sort of thing. You can choose not to include those. Now, when it says show word count, you might be thinking where that is, but when you scroll on a page, you'll notice just at the bottom there it says page 2 of 3, and it shows me the number of words as I'm scrolling on the document. So that is where you'd normally look for that. The next few icons are all about comments. And if you work on documents collaboratively and people are leaving comments for each other, then you can review this under these next few icons. So if we go to the last two icons, the speech bubble with one facing left and one facing right. If I tap on this, it'll bring up the previous comment or the next one. I can use these two buttons to flip between it. And with documents that you've received that have a comment on, you've got the option of replying. Or if you tap on the three dots next to a comment, you can tap on resolve or delete the thread if you want to delete a comment entirely. We also have other options in terms of deleting comments. If you tap on the second one, which is a speech bubble with an X at the top right corner of that, you can tap on delete that comment. If you want to add an additional comment, you can just tap on this one here to leave a comment on a document overall. If you want to leave a comment on a specific part of a document, you can tap on the item, right click, and tap on comment, or you can tap on long press if you're not using a mouse, and you can leave a comment there. The next menu item is something called track changes, and this is another really important feature if you're working on a document collaboratively. This is not like comments where you're giving feedback, but it's actually when it's something that allows you to see what changes other people have made to the document. If I tap on track changes, I can track changes for everybody or just me, or I can turn it off. So I want to turn on track changes for everybody. And you'll notice when I type some text, the text is underlined in a different color. This means that when someone opens up the document next time, they'll see that I've made that change to the document. And if that person wants to accept that change, they can tap on this icon, which is just over here, which is the accept button. I can accept and move on to the next change that was made somewhere else, or I can reject it by tapping on the next menu item, and that allows me to reject a change for everyone else. I can use the next two icons to go backwards and forwards between the different changes that have been made on a document. And the first item here is display for review, and this allows me to view the document without the markups. If I tap on no markup, you see the text returns to the normal color. If I tap on original, it shows you the original document before the changes were made, or I can just go back to all markup or simple markup, and I can see what changes have been made to that document. The last icon allows me to block authors. If I want to block a particular person from editing this document, I absolutely can. And if I tap on the last icon, which is a document with a little sort of cross through it, it allows me to add permissions and put some restrictions on in terms of editing the document as well. The last tab is called View, and this allows me to view the document in different layouts, in different ways, which I'll just go through now. So at the moment, by default, it's set to print layout, and this is useful for looking at it like it would be on a page. If I use pinch to zoom, I can zoom in or out of the document, and you can see there that it's just giving me the pages however I want to view it. However, you do have something called mobile view. If you tap on that, it will show you what might look like if it was being viewed on a mobile device. So the next icon along is something called headings. If I tap on this, it will show me a list of headings from in the document to give you a sort of interactive outline of this document. Now, headings are something that appears if you set up the document correctly. Now, this is something I showed you right at the beginning of this tutorial. If you select some text under the Home tab, the last icon here is called Text Styles. So if you allocate titles within a document as headings or subheadings, those will appear as a list under the headings view on this panel here. The next icon along is something called Immersive Reader. And when you tap on this, it changes the look of the document. Mine's a bit messy because I've got images in random places. But if I go to a bit of the document, it's a bit tidier like this. Now, what you'll see is that the look of the document is different. It's basically increased the spacing around the words and around the letters and around the paragraphs to make it really easily readable. So this is really good if you've got a lot of text that you need to review and you can just scroll through and see it in a much more kind of, as it says, readable way. Now, you do have some additional options for this. You can set the column width. So at the moment it's set to narrow. You can make it moderate. You can make it wide. I want to stick it back on narrow. That's a bit more readable. You can change the page color. So if you don't want to have it white, you want to have it darker, you want to invert it. You can do all these things just to help in terms of reviewing the document, make it a lot more readable. Now, if you're feeling particularly lazy, you can actually get Microsoft Word to read the document to you. If you select the text here, you tap on Read Aloud.
The iPad is a brand of iOS and iPadOS-based tablet computers that are developed by Apple Inc., first introduced on
Now, I've just pressed pause, which is down at the bottom here. So Word will actually read the document to you if that's something that you want. You do have some additional options for this. Next, on the transport controls, just at the bottom here, got a speaker with a little settings icon. Tap on that. You can change the volume of the voice. And if you tap on Voice Pack, you can choose to have a male or a female sounding voice read the document aloud to you. It's a really useful review function within Microsoft Word. So the last set of icons basically gives us some additional options in terms of how we are viewing this document. I can view the document ruler, which will show me the ruler along the top, along with any indents I might have. I can view one page at a time, or I can set it to adjust the view to the whole width of the page. And then I've got zoom in or zoom out functions here. Or you can use pinch to zoom with two fingers to zoom in and out of that document. So that's a summary of all the different tabs along the top of Microsoft Word. Let's now turn our attention to the 5 icons in the top right corner of the screen because they all do some slightly different things, but all really useful. The first icon is a picture of a phone. Immediately puts the document into mobile views. You can review how the document would look like if it was being viewed on a mobile device. The second one, this sort of smart tool where you can type in a sentence and Microsoft Word will help you achieve that. And this is really useful if you want to avoid all this kind of menu diving. A lot of what we've shown you today, some of these things aren't in obvious places. So if I want to quickly add something to my document, but I don't want to have to do all this menu diving, if I tap on this light bulb, I can type as a sentence what I'm looking to do. So if I type in insert shape, it brings up the insert shapes menu and I can quickly add something by tapping on it, just like that. And I can do that with adding comments or adding pictures or adding tables. If I'm not sure where to find this stuff, use the light bulb, type in what you want to do, and it will help you find that function within Microsoft Word. The third icon is a magnifying glass, and what I can do is I can search for a particular word, and it will highlight all instances of that word on the page. If I tap on the settings icon, I can use find and replace. So I've typed in the word iPad. I could change it to iPad Pro. And I can replace or replace all. So if I tap on all, it automatically changes from iPad to iPad Pro. Does that really easily. I'm just going to undo that though. The next icon is for sharing. If I tap on this icon, I can share this document. So I can send a copy. That will use the iPad's share sheet. So I can send it via messages, via an email app, or via AirDrop. I can do that. I can copy a link, so I can send that link to other people so they can access that document, or I can invite people if they have a Microsoft account, and I can get them to collaborate on this document as well. And the last icon, which we've probably looked at the beginning of the tutorial, which is the file menu. If I tap on these 3 icons, I've got lots of settings I've got here. I've got Autosave, which should be turned on by default, but you can just check that there. You can review the document headings, which we looked at before. That you can ask from here that the document be read aloud to you. You can make the document available offline. So if you're going to be editing this document away from an internet connection, you can do that. You can save a copy, send a copy. You can export as an open document or a PDF if that's what you want to do. From here, you can print. On this file menu, you can tap the print option. You can select AirPrint or open it in another app to do printing that way. You can view the document history if that's what you want to do. You can view all the changes. It's particularly useful if you're working collaboratively with another person. And what else do we have here? We have the properties of the document. We can enable or disable dictation. And then we can get help or feedback in terms of using Microsoft Word. For the final part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can open up a couple of Word documents side by side if you want to review changes or copy and paste stuff in between. At the moment, I have one document open. Now, if we think about the menu that we looked at right at the beginning of this tutorial, this document I've just been working, if I tap on the three dots and I tap on open in a new window, you can see now I've got this instance of the document here. I can go back and I can open up another document here. So now I've got these two documents that I can use side by side in order to review the changes, just like that. Another way of working with this is if you've got a hardware keyboard and if you press Command and Space and type in Word, you can drag this icon of Word over here and just let go. It'll open up another instance of Microsoft Word. From there, you want to work with a new document or an existing document. Now I've got these two documents side by side. So if I want to copy and paste a particular thing, I can tap on this, tap on copy, tap on my new document, tap on paste. I can work on two documents side by side, which again is something that's going to be really, really useful for people to know. So that's the end of this tutorial on Microsoft Word on the iPad. If you found this video useful, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to make a donation to the channel, there's two ways of doing that. You can use the super thanks button here on YouTube, or you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/buzzkill to leave a donation there. I've also got a shop. You can head over to buzzkill.shop, pick up some merch if you want to do that. But please like and please leave a comment. Please do say hello. Check out my other videos. And thanks very much for watching. And I'll be back soon with some more iPad tutorials.